Welcome back, Rankers. Do you remember last time we were talking about 404's, soft 404's and those sorts of things? I've had some discussions over the years about people saying, well, you know what, 404's, it just means that a page can't be found by the Google bot and it could be linked from anywhere. Now, there's a couple of different types. There's the 404's that Google might find because someone is linking to your site to a page that doesn't actually exist, and Google will find that link and go, hey, this page doesn't exist. Easily fixed. All you do for those sorts of 404's is you simply just 301 them. Redirect the bot or redirect that link permanently to its new home. Then there's what we call the soft 404's. These are pages that basically, like we showed last week, the site or the content management system knows that the page doesn't exist that's been requested by the user, but instead of the server returning what's called a 404 error, it returns a 200 OK error, but just gives the user a page that says, hey, that doesn't exist. Problem with that is Google will go and index that page, and you might have a lot of pages that are exactly the same indexed by Google because it's found these essentially broken links, but your site is telling them that it's okay. Now, people have said, yeah, but what does it matter? It's not going to matter that much. Well, where it matters is where it's really competitive phrase, and I'll show you what I mean. One of our sites last weekend developed 364 errors because of a new plugin that went into this particular site. Not a client site, it's one of Stuart Media sites. Anyway, you can see here the spike in the 404's. Now, these are not soft 404's. The site had one soft 404 but it developed these 300 real 404's. And what happened at the same time, as soon as Google discovered these, a very competitive phrase that this particular site was ranking for dropped 7 or 8 spots. The other phrases that it was ranking for that we were monitoring didn't move, not a budge, nothing. So what that tells us is that if you're in a really competitive space and your site's got lots of errors, Google is going to send people to sites that don't have a lot of errors because it's about the user experience. It's about Google trying to make sure that its product is delivering content and results that the user wants and is relevant. So the user doesn't want to go to a site that's full of errors, right? So if you're in a really, really competitive space, like for instance, dicksmith.com.au, and dicksmith.com.au have reviewed their site before. They're a large electronics retailer. They're a traditional retailer and they're doing a lot of wonderful stuff online. They're doing a lot of stuff with Google Places, Google AdWords, and I really like the style of what I'm seeing here when I do a site, dicksmith.com.au. Okay, we've got 64,000 results. There are a few subdomains in there, and we've reviewed the site before, as I said, but what I really like about their SEO is that they're thinking about the phrases that they want to rank for. They want to rank for buy Sennheiser cordless headphone, right? And so they've got that as the first phrase in the page title. Then when you go to the page itself, waiting. We've got Sennheiser cordless headphone. Now, I don't think that's a H1. I haven't checked, but I'd want to make it a H1 if it wasn't. It's more of looks like a breadcrumb type listing. But I would want to put maybe even a H1 here if that's not a H1. Sennheiser cordless headphone. Because you can get half of it right. And let's just see if they're ranking for that phrase. Look at the Zoom window. Let's just check. So we want to see if they're ranking for buy Sennheiser cordless headphone. Now, I don't know whether this is a competitive phrase, but I would say it is when you look at the advertising around. And that's one of the first things that you can check is that how much advertising is around this phrase. That will give you an indication of how many competitors you're up against. So you can look here, you've got the good guys, you've got Sennheiser, you've got all these ads down here. Now you can see here that JB Hi-Fi is ahead of Dick Smith, and this is the page we were just looking at. But what we've also discovered with the Dick Smith site is they've got this same 404 issue. So you can put basically dicksmith.com.au/anything, gobbledygook, something that doesn't exist. And what the Dick Smith site is doing is just saying, hey, that page, it's moved permanently. So basically you're telling the bots that it actually was a real link at some point, which it never was. And you know what? Here is where that page is now. Well, they're just directing it because they're saying it's a 200 OK. We don't ever see 404 code here. And then the page itself says, page not found. We are really sorry, but we couldn't find what you're looking for. Now, that's a soft 404 because we're saying to the bots that, hey, that page is okay. That's fine. You can type that in. But we're telling the user, you know what, that page, it's not okay. Doesn't really exist. So, what sort of potential issues could that bring up? Well, when you Google that phrase that is on that error page, we find that, and we say just search dicksmith.com.au and we put it in an exact match. So we've got that phrase in quotation marks. We can see here there's at least 17 pages, all at different URLs. You don't want that. Now, as I've just shown, that if you develop a lot of 404s, your site can plummet for certain competitive phrases. Now, I don't know whether Sennheiser cordless headphones is a competitive phrase, but I bet there's a bunch of other really competitive phrases that dicksmith.com.au is trying to rank higher for than, say, the competitors like JB Hi-Fi or Kogan.com.au or any of the other big retailers out there. They could probably rank really, really well if they fixed up a lot of these soft 404s. So the story here is that make sure you check Webmaster Tools on a regular basis. And Webmaster Tools will send an alert to your Gmail account that's associated with your Webmaster Tools if it finds a problem. We got an alert over the weekend for this, where we got an email coming in saying, hey, we've just discovered a spike in 404s. And we've seen it a lot across a lot of other sites recently as well. And we're not sure at this stage whether Google has got better at detecting soft 404s, but it certainly looks like they're trying to focus on it more. And it does have a real impact on your competitive phrase ranking. So the lesson here is that you can do all these things. You can go out and get backlinks. You can try to make the site as... And look, I mean, dicksmith.com.au, it's got a great site, man. Great robots.txt. One of the best robot.txts I've seen. And why I say that is because they are blocking a lot of bots. Because in this industry, in the retail industry, where things are so price sensitive, there is a lot of bots out there that will go and crawl big retailer sites, grab their prices, and then feed that back to their own retail site and adjust their prices on the same products accordingly. Because you can look at, the SKU codes and all those sorts of things to work out that it's an exact match for the product, and then you can find out what your competitors selling it for automatically, and then adjust your prices down so you come in underneath. Dick Smith, to their credit, they've done a really good job of blocking a lot of those bots. So they've done a lot of work in, not only getting the site ranked, but protecting their pricing regime and those sorts of things. But they could do a lot better if they didn't do this. So the way you can do this, and what I'm using here is Aaron Wall, SEObook.com or tools.seobook.com, and you just basically go to the header checker, the single page header check, and Aaron's a well-respected SEO guy out of the US, and you just put in any URL, any old URL, and that, of course, has your domain name in it. So, for instance, dicksmith.com.au / Julia Gillard. Now, that should return a 404, unless they have a page where they're selling Julia Gillard. But we see that no, we've moved it permanently, and it's now a 200. Okay, yeah, that page exists, and now it's over here. Well, it's not, because it's the exact same page we looked at before. There it is. Exact same content, different URL. Bad idea. Check your webmaster tools regularly. Make sure you check for 404s and soft 404s, especially if you're on that front page and you can't work out why you're at number 1. For those competitive phrases, it's these little tiny things that can matter, because if your competitors are doing it all well and you're not, Google's going to send those customers to your competitor. And that's it for this week. We'll see you next week. Thanks very much. Bye.